Welcome everyone to a new episode of our Composable Commerce podcast. Today we have an amazing guest. She is, in my opinion, a really inspirational person and a hero to many of us. And I think also a hero to many people who need it. And we're going to talk about later that in the when we talk a bit more about her work outside of commerce. But I think the most important part today is to finally tell you who that is. And that is, of course, Meghan Stabler. Welcome, Meghan.
Hi, Jamie. Goedemiddag again. I'm going to try my Dutch a little bit. That's going to be it, though.
Welcome, Meghan, to the podcast today. Meghan, you don't need an introduction for me, but I'm sure there's some people who are like, who is she? So could you give us a very short introduction?
Well, thank you, Jamie. So I'm Meghan Stabler. I'm Senior Vice President of Marketing here at Bigcommerce, one of the world's leading open SaaS composable commerce e-commerce platforms. So I've been here for about 4.5 years. As I mentioned, I run international marketing, actually, so that's everything but America, as well as product marketing and analyst relations and press and comms and competitive intel, and get involved in many things. And I'll tell you one thing that I really love, Jamie, and that is our partner ecosystem. And it's companies like Deity and others that really surround the ecosystem of open commerce, as I'm going to keep calling it, that makes it valuable for the merchants. And really, we'll probably talk about today, not just composable, but also the future fitting for our merchants that we have together. So I'm also thankful to you for the partnership. I remember we, Deity and BC, did some announcements back in 2019. I mean, so it's been a while that we've been partnering together. So very thankful for the relationship.
Yeah, but thankful is all on my side as well. I mean, it's what you say. Something that we're going to talk about today is not just composable commerce. I like to call it the composable approach. You know, it's something you choose. It's something that we as partners or the merchant chooses to do instead of, it's not a gimmick. It's not a feature.
No.
It's really an approach. And that approach for the merchant obviously is on the tech side, like, hey, I can combine different tech together. But more important on our side as tech partners is like, how can I prepare my tech and my story around that so it can be used in a partnership way. And I remember Bigcommerce saying, okay, we are open SaaS. And we're like, what? Open SaaS? That's like a contradiction, but it kind of, where did that term come from? Like, how would you describe it?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of an oxymoron, right? Because SaaS is meant to be closed, right? You think of the example I'll use is like Gmail, right? It's not like you as the end customer can do a lot with Gmail. Yeah, you can configure some things and change your settings and your colors from white or light background to dark background and add an email signature. But it's closed, right? And that is what SaaS has traditionally been. It's a closed platform. Salesforce would be an example of that. Microsoft would be an example of that, right? Apple is a good example of that. When you look then at the alternative, it's open source, right? And it's like, I'm British by birth. I live in the States, in Austin, Texas. So it's like the Wild West sometimes, right? And you think of open source as that, right? You've got open source code that anybody can go code to. Hopefully, fingers crossed, there's a standard in there. But it also puts you at risk because you're going to have to maintain it. You're going to have to worry about the upgrades. You're going to have to worry about, is it when a new part of the open source comes out, is it going to fit with my organization? I'm going to have to make changes to it. So there has to be a balance, right? And this was what we defined many years ago was, can we take this closed SaaS platform and begin to open it up? So when we think about, well, again, we'll probably talk about Mach, right? The Mach Alliance and the Mac Initiative, right? Very similar to that. Can we make it modular? Can we open it up through APIs? It's in the cloud, right? And the H on Mach is obviously headless, right? So we obviously are headless as well. But let's look at a modular approach to SaaS. Let's open it up through APIs, right? And that's what we've done, right? The vast majority of what a merchant needs, or really what a developer would need, or an agency partner would need, is opened up. So whether it's from checkout to promotions, right? You name it, it's opened up in the platform. So you now can create amazing experiences, unique experiences for the shopper, right? And that's part of our relationship with you all on, the PWA work that we did, and the integration with, Deity Falcon, I think it was, and other things a while ago, was how can we take what a merchant is looking to do that may be unique to them, maybe branded to them, and create a wonderful consumer shopper experience, but do it through open commerce, do it through open SaaS, so that you get to choose. And what you do and you build is different to what somebody else builds. And that's really scalable for many large merchants, whether it's, fashion brands there in Europe like Ted Baker, or MKM Building Supplies, right, in the B2B world, where they want to create unique shopper experiences for contractors and wholesalers and other things. Or Ted Baker wants to create it for the shopper looking for a new suit or a jacket or a blouse or something. You can tailor this platform to your specific needs. And that's what we're seeing with enterprise merchants, is they want to be able to create their own unique brand in an e-commerce space and connect to you and me wherever I may be shopping against whatever social or marketplace. So that's the value of open commerce from Bigcommerce, and the value of having partnerships with you all.
Yeah, I think we have a great user case together for this. That is Jimmy Brings, which is an Australian part
Australian
of
brand,
Woolworths.
yes.
Yeah, and they had this, they started as a quick startup, some guys driving around in a van, bringing beer to people. They built an app, the thing exploded, COVID came, it exploded even more. And then Woolworths said, let's buy you. And then they said, here we have a very big bunch of servers in company internal services, like for example, stock and serviceability. Now you're going to have to use that. And these guys from Jimmy Brings are like, hey, but we want to have this speed, of movement and time to market of what this, this startup has. So we want to start moving much faster. We don't want to be struck by, this big enterprise and all these systems.
Right.
So by using our technology, we could connect all these together and use Bigcommerce in there and more services like Talent One and a lot of cool stuff, connect it and bring it to a great experience. That could be done in just 6 to 8 months. It didn't take very long to bring that whole story together. And I think the cool thing I would like to call it is always you have that enterprise enablement, but with the ease and speed of SaaS. In my opinion, that is the open SaaS. Like you can do what you want as an enterprise business, but still do it as fast and easy as a SaaS business.
Yeah, I'll throw in some other words there. I mean, Jimmy Brings is a really cool use case. I mean, as you mentioned, and I think you lightly went over it. It started with a few guys driving around with beer in the back of their car, delivering beer, right? Yeah. And it seems funny, but what a great business concept. People want to drink. People want to drink from home, but they don't necessarily want to go out there and get it. So we'll bring it to you. But the value of that modular approach that you talked about, right, starting with Talon, also allows brands like Jimmy Brings and others to go ahead and innovate, right? Yeah. With speed and flexibility. They can either test and learn and say, no, it's not going to work for us. Or they can say, yeah, it's really working for us. Now let's scale it out. So Jimmy Brings, obviously your partner, our partner as well, also used other things, right? So other parts of the Mark Alliance, like Contentful, right? It's for the CMS, right? Algolia for that really advanced search and merchandising that needed it. And then you have to wrap payments around it. And so Stripe and other things where you've got a more modern payment construct to it. So the flexibility of a modular approach, a composable approach, allows you to plug in best of breed tech stacks that give you that speed that you mentioned to market. And I think that's the most amazing thing about this e-commerce world is you don't have to be weighted down by monolithic tech stacks from companies that have been around for a very long time but want to sell you a lot of stuff from them and build a conglomerate. You get speed and flexibility to launch. You get freedom and flexibility to innovate and grow. And that's what this world needs, right? We're all unique and different. So why not make your own website, your e-commerce site, unique and different too?
And I think, another very big advantage of this kind of technology now is that the services specializing, let's say, like Algolia specializing in search. Here in the Netherlands, we have Tweakwise, which is growing now bigger in Europe, but it's, very specific. And it can deliver something very specific because they just focus on the search and the product recommendation and all the stuff that they do. They do not have to worry anymore about does it work together with XYZ platform.
Exactly.
They can actually go much deeper. So you get much better services, which is obviously beneficial for everyone.
Yeah, and let's throw in the word that gets used a lot, but we're really talking about here. It's the user journey, right? It's the customer shopping journey. You want to be able to connect it all the way from top of funnel, attracting somebody in, right, through your social channels and your marketplaces, and that conversion, and then you want to have that shipping, and then you potentially want to have the returns in it, and all the user journey between that, all the different touch points. This is what we're talking about here. You can be flexible and modular in what you do, and create these wonderful user journey shopper experiences across the board that delight and excel essentially to convert and improve your average order value or get repeat customers or drive loyalty and things. So cool stuff.
Yeah, and if we talk about the Jimmy Brings case again, they create about 30,000 coupons a week. So that is what's being done there, and that's so unique for their business. And and there's things like, does it work in X, Y, in my postal code, does it work in where I am, because it's about a delivery business. And I think even all to the payments, they are using indeed Stripe, but what they are using as well is their own payment method, which is called WPay. It's a Woolworths internal payment system. The thing never saw any live environment. It saw live environments, but in stores, it didn't go like a really online live environment. And then we could, with the Composable Commerce approach, we could connect that and make sure that they could use it. So that was really unique to their business, which was possible and only possible because we're doing it with Composable Commerce.
Yeah, exactly.
So what I would like to ask you, Meghan, is like, hey, you're international, right? You say I'm responsible for the international market. Is there a difference between, let's say, Europe, APAC, US market in the adoption of Composable Commerce?
What a fantastic question,
Yeah.
which we had actually scheduled. Yes, I think there is. I think, I'm a proud European, right? I have spent a lot of time in Europe. I grew up as a technical person. I was a code writer, albeit in the security space. And I've loved how we as Europeans are so inquisitive and so eager to take on new opportunities or try new things. And so that's a very long-winded background to say, yes, I see headless commerce has really advanced in Europe. I mean, it started a number of years ago when the phrasing was coined, but it really was adopted by the developer community and the merchant community and the agencies several years ago, where in the US, it's only been in the last few years that it's been really thought of. Same for composability. And it surprises me that composability is not seen as a major thing that enterprise merchants should be considering today. That composability, that modular approach of building things that are pre-integrated, or at least that they're going to connect and integrate, allows, to what you said earlier, that sort of speed and flexibility, high performance, right? Increased conversions, the agility to keep up with the modern requirements of the shoppers. And I think in Europe, we've adopted that a lot faster, right? Now, I'm not talking about other platforms that may offer you a ton of APIs to go build it yourself, right? For me, in a world where we have economic headwinds, right? We're not sure, is there a recession or not a recession? We know consumer confidence is down. We know, interest rates are up. A lot of things are pushing at merchants to be wary. So there are multiple approaches when it comes to composability to answer this question. One, you could go and take a platform that offers you all the APIs so you can build that unique experience yourself. You start building and coding, and you have to build your own checkout experience, right, on those things. That, for me, is a time to launch, which is very, very long. Or you can start looking at solutions from Bigcommerce as a composable open commerce platform, where this modular approach, working with partners like yourself, and then the platforms and solutions we mentioned, whether it's Algolia or Bloomreach, or it's Content Stack or Contentful, right? Or different payment platforms. We mentioned Stripe, but we can mention a whole bunch of others. That they're going to work together and therefore the ability to launch quickly is far superior than if you had to build your own APIs. And so I think in Europe, we're used to that, right? We're used to taking on a challenge, figuring out the best approach, and doing it. So Europe for me is a little bit more ahead, or quite a bit ahead in my mind, in terms of headless and composable. The US and APAC a little bit. America is getting on the composable headless bandwagon now. As a member of the Mac Alliance, it'd be remiss for me if I didn't say, and we were the second e-com platform in the Mac Alliance, that Mac started in Europe, it grew in Europe, it has great partners in Europe, and is now launching in Americas in 2023. All right, I think the big launch is going to be around Shop Talk. So that gives you an indication as to where is it a little bit more advanced and where is it coming to. But it should not, this modular approach, this API approach, cloud native, headless, should not be ignored in today's world, where with those headwinds I started off with, you as a merchant, especially an enterprise merchant, should really be thinking about, how do I future-proof my e-com stack, all the components, not rely on one company to provide everything, but future fit for best of breed, so I can do, just as you said before, Jamie, about, making sure that you're using best of breed. You got flexibility, you got speed, right? You got agility inside of it.
Yeah, and I think, you mentioned the Mac Alliance, that is, one way, that's the alliance that brings all these kind of technologies together, or at least a big part of it. And indeed, it kind of, started here in Europe, but in my opinion, the European market, and of course, I'm from the Netherlands, so I know kind of a little bit about it here, is that it's much more, technically, much more complex, because we have so many different languages, tax rules,
Sure.
currencies, all this kind of stuff. So I think the need for being able to use a multi-layered back-end, front-end services, or at least specific services for certain countries, is much bigger here than it might be in the US. You can run with one payment method, one language, a much bigger business that you can do here.
Yes and no, and I'll agree, and I'm not going to disagree with it. What I'm going to say, I'm going to layer on one other thing. We are a global, local, global world, right?
Yeah.
So if I'm a US merchant, or a merchant that's not based or domiciled in Europe, right? Your TAM, your total addressable market, right? Those that you could probably sell your widget to, your piece of clothing to, whatever it is not limited necessarily to the USA, right? So I agree with you on that. The complexity for Europe, language, payments, shipping, same day delivery, right, is more complex, and it's not just the region as a whole. It's different from country to country, right?
Yes.
And you mentioned tax, right? Tax as well. The ability to use a modular approach that we talked about as a domiciled American company, or let's say you're in Latin America and you want to be able to sell out and into a Dutch market, right? Yeah. You have to make sure that you're integrating maybe the payment functionality they need, like Molly, right? Yep. There in the Netherlands, right? You've got to make sure that your customers, right? Because that's who you and I care about the most, the shoppers that are on your platform. What do they like to use? Is it vouchers and coupons? Is it Molly, right? Is it ACH if they're B2B, right? Are there CPQ requirements different country to country, right? So all of those things you have to take into consideration. The view that I'd sort of offer up is that Mark, Composable, and Headless give you that flexibility, again, the word that you used earlier, to create unique experiences, not just within inside of your country, but for the shoppers that may be coming to your site from all over the place, right? And that's when you've got to integrate the international tax implications. Like global E, you've got to think about the international shippers, whether it's DHL, right? Or it's La Poste in France, or it's the Post Office, Royal Mail in the UK. Those are all the integrations now you think about, and that's again when, and as I started off with you about thanking you for the partnership, companies like Bigcommerce has established those correct partnerships for whatever your needs may be that allow you to scale and grow. So another long answer to a discussion which I love, which is I want to have a world where I don't care if what I'm buying is in, Utrecht.
Yeah, very good.
Or Dankerveld, or Vlissingen,
yeah.
or Nijmegen op Zoom, right? And I'm sitting here in Austin. I've got a great story about Nijmegen, by the way, at some point I can tell you. But it's creating this local, global, local world, and that's what I'd like merchants to think about in this enterprise space.
And I think the world has. Short answer: the world has changed. The things have changed. COVID helped with this. That we have some more internationalization. The borders were closed and then open again, at least here in Europe. And I love that. That is what I love. We with our technology, we are we are the composer layer that brings all these services together. We make sure the data goes to the right place at the right moment. We're the glue. Yes, we're the glue. And I love that not only in the business, technical way, because, I have a technical background, so I love the way that works. But what I love more about is the partnership that started to exist, the way we are working together. And, I come also from the more traditional e-commerce where we had one platform. We were all a big fan. We entered the community. We were wearing their colors, their badges. You had your fans to one club. But today, we're not building a fan base anymore around our products. We're building a community with so many businesses together all over the world. And my God, I love that. That is something that makes my job great.
And that community is not just us. And I want to drop it down a layer. That's the developer community, right? I still want developers to be able to craft and build magic with what they integrate and do. So whilst Deity is the glue or the connector for all of this, there is some work that you still want to go ahead and do. There's that user journey that you want to make sure is there. There's the innovation of integration and uniqueness that you want to put in there. And so the developer community is part of this ecosystem as well. And that's what we want to make sure that we're driving home as a company is you don't just buy it, set it, forget it. You can buy it, innovate, integrate, build unique experiences, customize the APIs, and build something. So a developer community is very key to what we do.
Yeah, I totally agree. And now we have the Mac Alliance, is where people, around that is not just developers, it's people who are involved with that, running that community, or I wouldn't say running, but just, being part of that community, trying to open up to very different. And that is from the tech point of view, exactly what we're doing. We're opening up. If we are a part of that alliance or not, we're still opening up, partnering, working together. And as you said, only then do you know what a business really needs in a certain country. It's not about having just the right shipper and the right payment. You need to understand how do these people buy. I know, Germans buy different from French, from Italian people. It's a very different way. And you've been in Nijmegen, you've been in the Netherlands, at least I can hear. So I'm sure you've been around of Europe. There's
I have. Aber ich kann ein bisschen Deutsch sprechen. Je parle un peu de français.
Oh, je parle français.
Oui, un peu.
Yeah, un petit peu.
Un petit peu, oui.
But I love that it's, everything is being brought together. But, you're now in Austin. That is something different from Europe, obviously. There are so many different cultures here. But in Austin, I'm from here, I'm from the Netherlands. I see Austin as one culture. I see people, and it's obviously not true, with a big cowboy hat, and the boots, and that is, you have one? Oh, come on. That is pretty. But that is, it's such a big difference. And you're from the UK and you were there. So how do you experience this? This must be a totally different world.
It is a different world. And, I've lived in the United States for 32 years. So I've been here a long time. Prior to being here, I was in New York, for example. And I've been in Texas now for 22 years, I think it is. Just after 9/11, I moved here. It is different, and I really don't want to diss people, meaning put people down. But you find a lot of people here, not just Austin, that don't understand those intricacies of Europe. Right? We are a very integrated, whether it's through the EU or the UK going through Brexit. But there are, I think you tried to lay it out when you sort about, the Germans buy differently from the French, right? That is very true. And so part of the international marketing in me and the great teams that I get to lead every day with a lot of very, by the way, powerful female leaders in them, we commissioned a research at the end of last year just to look at every country that we're in. And Bigcommerce has merchants in 150 countries, but we are very explicit about being in, selling into, direct selling into, in our partnerships, relationships in a set of countries in Europe. So France, Germany, Austria, Spain, the Netherlands, the Nordics, right? And Italy, and I'm probably missing a whole bunch out of there as well.
Yep.
But each country has different buyer behaviors. Each country has different selling attitudes that you need to accommodate to. So just like our merchants, we have to adapt our way to go to market with those uniquenesses for each country. So I think me having that awareness helps being here in the US. I do sit in meetings, and I do this little thing where I'm like, hey, I'm just going to raise the international flag a little bit. Don't forget about international over here, right? It's just to remind people about that. And it's the same with APAC as well, right? You can do the same thing. So what I found is that the US is somewhat myopic in the way that it views the world. That's not necessarily true of merchants, right? We have very large brands on our platform that are international brands, that are D2C brands, that are B2B brands, that are both domestic selling as well as international selling too. And, it's important that we get those nuances that you indicated between the countries so that we get it right. And that layers it into the previous discussion we had about understanding that in Holland, Molly is probably the preferred payment.
Yes.
And that may be different it will be different to what is required in France or in Germany, where, you're still seeing people that want to pay by ACH or just regular credit card or other things, right? So allowing our platform to be open and extensible, right? That open composability, having the partnerships with all the different partners in those said countries allows us to tailor for those unique country needs. And so, yes, we're based in Austin, Texas. That's where we're headquartered. But we do have a very specific international awareness and lens on everything that we do.
So your role, you're the marketing, international marketing head of, you're rolling that business, but it's not just outwards marketing, because if I hear you right, you're doing that, you're raising that flag internally as well. You're running, you're trying to get everyone understand and remember of internationalization.
Correct. Internationalization is important, right? So, I'll give you just one other example. When you start looking at other countries like in Latin America, right? There, again, are different ways that people purchase and buy and ship. So making sure that we have the right payment processor or payment provider in Mexico, different to Peru, different to Chile, different to Colombia, right? So Mercado Pago, we just did an announcement with them a few weeks ago, making sure that integration from them into our platform through our APIs is done efficiently and correctly, and also preserves and protects the payment information. So PCI compliance, all those things that you need to make sure you have as a merchant that we take care of on the platform are done. So we get very specific in each country as to what's needed and why. Same thing with the partnerships we have, and same thing with the agency and tech partnerships around the world, is who are the right fit for us and for the merchant, because again, they're the ones that matter.
So Meghan, do you travel a lot to figure that out?
Do I travel a lot? I used to travel a heck of a lot, right? My older days at another company, I used to travel, and which is why I moved. I was traveling about 270 days a year.
Oh my God. How do you combine that?
Internationally as well. Internationally. I mean, I remember one time I left New York on a Friday, got to Australia on the Sunday, left Australia on the Tuesday or the Wednesday, got back to New York, met with my CEO, who said, great work out in Sydney, but I've got another deal that I need you to go work out there. I was like, great, when? He goes, could you get there day after tomorrow? So I had to leave again that Friday and go back. Literally 2 round trips to Australia within 2 weeks. I do travel. I mean, I try to get to Europe at least once a quarter if the business needs it there. I like to fill my calendar. So if anybody's listening here that knows I'm coming or wants me to get out to Europe, I bang it out. I'm like, I want to have a breakfast meeting. I want to fill the time between breakfast and lunch with more meetings and purposeful meetings, not just for the sake of it. I want to have lunch with merchants or lunch with partners. I want to do afternoon meetings. I want to have another evening lunch, evening dinner meeting type thing. And I've always looked at it as taking the second to last flight to the next country.
Okay, that's
that's because if your flight cancels, you know you've got another option.
you still got another
right?
one. Yeah,
That's right. But I'm used to like, bang, I'll be in London for day 1. I'll be in, Amsterdam, day 2. I'll be down in Paris on day 3. I'll be in Berlin or Frankfurt on day 4. I'll be in Rome on day 5 and then flying back or something like that. So I run fast, play hard, love doing what I do. And I love the people at Bigcommerce that we have, powerful, strong women. And I love our ecosystem, right? I love the fact that you and I can talk about what we both helped Jimmy Brings do, or MKM Solutions, or Ted Baker, or a whole range of others. Tottenham Hotspur football team, right, in the UK, because they see value from the work that this ecosystem can put together in this modular approach. And that the Americans have the saying of, it fills my cup. It fills my cup, fills my bucket. That's the thing. Those are the things I love.
For everyone traveling to Europe, I can give you one tip. If you want to do it like Meghan and meet a lot of people, don't fly between the countries, but drive, and make sure you have someone to drive you so you can talk. I do that. I pick up people. I tell them where you're at. I will pick you up, because it means I have 2 hours with them in the car.
Sure.
So I have my meeting there while I could have been waiting on an airport.
I used to do that. When I was there in the UK, I would take the car from, I don't know if it was Calais or Dover. I'd take it out to Vlissingen. I'd drive up from Vlissingen all the way up to Amsterdam, spend some time there.
With some people in your car in the meantime, so you can talk with them.
Well, these were the old days. This was like I'm old, so this was like the 80s and the 90s. So this was, you put a cassette tape in and you'd be like, to it,
Yeah, very good. We have some kind of, that kind of music we have for sure in the Netherlands.
Oh, I know. I spent a lot of time in, I can't remember the area. There's an area in Amsterdam where there used to be a lot of nightclubs.
Westergasfabriek. Yeah.
So I remember those ones, and you come out early in the morning and you get the Fritz and the mayonnaise.
Yeah. Those are Belgium actually, but we have them in the Netherlands too.
Oh, I know you have that. I know you have them. I've eaten a lot of them. So yeah,
they're very, very good. So how do you combine that, Megan, as a mom? I'm a mom myself, and I cannot separate from my kid for a minute. So how do you do it?
It's tough, and I co-parent, so I am a single parent. My ex and I divorced a few years ago. We have a beautiful 11-year-old, and it's tough. I mean, it is so tough. But thankful to technology, FaceTime. She just got her iPhone for Christmas, so it warms my heart when she will text me with a little heart emoji, or she sends me these weird TikTok videos, which I don't get, but she apparently thinks they're funny. Those are the things that I love. And I'll tell you the one thing that I do when I travel, and I've done this for a number of years before she even had access to electronics, was I set up an email address for her. And when I travel, I'm sitting on an airplane, and it's not that I'm feeling lonely or emotional, but when you grab yourself in a moment of wanting to express how proud you are or just a thought, I'll drop an email when I'm on a plane and say, hey, sweetheart, I'm flying to London right now. Just want to let you know, ... I'm so proud of you. So that when she gets older, she has this email trail knowing that as a parent, despite being away from her, I was with her in thought. And I think that's the connectedness that we do, and that's important. So if you don't do it, consider doing it.
Oh my God, I love this. This is so beautiful. I'm gonna do this. My son, he's 2.5 years old now. Last year I went for 1 month to Australia to work with the Jimmy Brings, and I brought him. I couldn't stand being without him. You've seen the Jimmy Brings office from the inside as a
Yeah.
small boy. So I
Yeah.
like to.
I mean, but think about it. Just think, 2.5, he's learning so much of the world
Yeah.
that he may not understand around him. But just even if you write a note now and say, hey, this date to this date, we flew, you embed some pictures, you say what we did, what he ate, how he laughed, how he cried, what a pain in the butt he was on the flight or whatever else, right? But you do it consistently, and it creates a narrative. I'm a big history buff, right? I was doing computer science and history in school. And I love genealogy. I love to know where we come from and what our history is and the legacy of our ancestors. And if you don't document what the narrative is in today's world, you miss that. So doing the genealogical research on my family, I've done it for friends, I've done it for co-workers, and giving them connective tissue to ancestors dating back into the 1600s, right? And so for me, it's like, I want my daughter, and by the way, I have a 29-year-old and I have a 11-year-old, right? 29-year-old, I'm not going to email other than to say,
No, of course.
have you paid your bills? You really need me to pay them again? If you're listening to this, Hannah, I didn't really mean that. And for the 11-year-old, it's been just several years of me just writing short notes so that she has something to remember and craft her own vision of me and history with her when I'm not here. That's the basic fundamentals.
I really absolutely love this idea. I'm gonna do it right away. Meghan, we're already talking for half an hour, but I want to ask you one more thing, and because you're in this. I said in the beginning, you're an inspiration for me, and why that is, I will give a very short background. So I'm a single mom of a foster boy, and he was he couldn't stay with his parents until when he was 1 day old, not even a few hours old. And the court appointed to me when he was 5 days old. And since then, I've been there, and they called me on a Thursday, and I had him on a Friday. And all of a sudden, I had a baby. No clue. My business partner went with me on Thursday evening shopping because I didn't have any baby stuff. So he's been coming with me to the office and to many places ever since. And I think combining that, I love to combine. My work is my work, but I love to combine that. Like it's my passion, and I want to share that with my son, and he's my passion too, and he's my number one. That's for sure. And he's always going to be there, and I love to do things around it. So every once a year, I do for kind of a foundation I have where I, together with my business partner, collect old toys, which we give to children, foster kids who do not have someone to give them toys during Christmas. And when I see you. And I think I'm busy, right? I'm thinking I'm a busy woman with a job and a house and a single mom and a boy and all this kind of stuff. But you're a busy woman, and you are volunteering at a lot of foundations which are close to my heart for children, as a mom for children, but also for making sure that everybody understands the world a little bit better and a little bit outside our own scope. So how? Where's your energy coming from? Like, how do you do it? Like,
well, I think we need to spend another 30 minutes talking about the energy. So I believe that we have, if we want to take it, the opportunity to give back in many ways, right? We are a slice of time on this big journey that humanity's been on for hundreds of thousands of years, and hopefully many more years ahead of us. And talk about the genealogy stuff and the history stuff that I did. I just want to leave the world a better place than where I found it, right? Obviously, I'm trans. I transitioned in 2004. The world right now is very hurtful and very hateful towards trans people. So I'm trying to navigate a world through it. At the same time, my professional world, relationships with people like you, are key to me because I love doing what we do. But leaving a legacy, right, is so key to me. And so my involvement in the past with major organizations like the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children in the 80s, in the 90s and the early 2000s, was key to me to try to provide a voice for the voiceless, missing kids that have been abducted, sexually abused, and hopefully recovered, live or not recovered, and given back to parents, right?
Yep.
That was important to me for 8 years. Then I transitioned and realizing that the world didn't quite favor LGBTQ people, and trying to say, hold on, I'm still the same person that I was as a senior vice president before when you saw me in a suit and tie. I'm the same fun person. I'm the same enjoyable person that's got a Texas hat that loves, rave music and electronic dance music and stuff like that I was before. The only thing that's changed is my outward appearance. I'm still a loving human being who also cries and can be hurt. So let me try and change that world. And that took me through organizations. And then more recently, the organizations that I'm a board member of, like Planned Parenthood, the attack on women, women's reproductive rights, the ability for a woman to make her choice with her body and what she wants to do pains me. And so using my voice, using my experience, using my executive presence to help oversee that national organization, which is huge, is important to me. And I'm on a bunch of other boards as well. But I'm also very conscious of my privilege. I'm very conscious that if I don't feel that the work I'm doing is impactful, not the organization, but the work that I'm doing as a board member is impactful, I am taking up the seat, that board position seat, from somebody who could probably make a difference and make an impact. Yeah. So I always use a sort of rear view mirror analogy of, am I doing what I can do to my fullest potential for this board? And if so, great. And I have had a few times conversations with presidents of boards, co-chairs, chairs of boards, to say, I'm wondering if this is now time for me to give up my board seat so that we can bring in fresh blood, fresh innovation, fresh ideas. But those things, all these things drive me for that one thing I talked about. We're a slice on this planet. We're a speck of dirt on this wonderful spaceship called planet Earth that is hurtling through the universe, right? And we have a slice of time. So why not make it better? And so I'll end it with this. When I've given some more inspirational keynotes talking about that side of what I do and why I do it, I talk about who is your pal, P-A-L. What is your purpose in life? What are you defining your purpose to be? I want to be able to cure cancer. Brilliant, noble purpose. Go for it. Authenticity. How authentic are you going to be in the life you lead, the work that you do, the relationships that you build in helping you enable that purpose? And ultimately, what is your legacy? P-A-L, purpose, authenticity, and legacy. What is the legacy that you want to leave? And I don't want to leave this as a dark moment, but I always draw the picture of the end of a scene of a movie called Saving Private Ryan, right? Yeah. Very graphic movie, World War II, D-Day, right? Those types of things. And at the end of the movie, Private Ryan, older Private Ryan, is standing at a gravesite where the actor Tom Hanks had played the captain that went off to try and find Private Ryan. Yep. And the older Private Ryan, old man, has his family around him, his wife and children and grandkids. And he turns to his wife and he says, "Tell me I was a good man. Tell me I was a good man." I want my legacy to be that I made an impact in the world, whether it's the business world of e-commerce, whether it's lifting up women leaders, whether it's helping somebody in their career as a marketer or a developer or a salesperson to be the better version of themselves that they got into it, helping them be and live their life authentically. That's what I'm doing as a trans person. I don't hide it. I can't hide it. I'm trans. Yes, there's people in the world that are against me, will tell me I'm still a man. I'm post-operative. I could show them that my Audi is an innie, not going to change their minds, right?
Of course not.
But I'm living my life authentically when I turn up to events in the UK or Amsterdam or, anywhere. You're seeing me on stage and I'm presenting and you're getting the real me. And I'm doing it with purpose.
Yep.
Right? Because I want to leave the world a better place than I found it. And that's what drives me in doing these other things, but it doesn't impact on my work, right? Work is the number one thing for me because that's what pays the bills. That's what gives me health insurance. That's right, those things. All these other things, board meetings are in the evenings, board meetings are at weekends, right? I'll do those things just to make sure it's there. But what I believe in is this: live with doing purpose, be authentic in doing it, and make sure that you've got a legacy that you can turn round at the end of your life and say, tell me I did good.
Yeah, and I love this. There's nothing more I can say about it than the fact that I love it. And I live at the moment with my best friend and her 2 children. So she has a twin. They're 9 years old. And every evening we eat together because I try to be home to have dinner as a family with my 2-year-old as well. And then, and then I go back to work or do whatever I need to do. But we want to have a dinner together. And then every day we do this round of questions and we ask all the kids, what did you do today? What good did you do today for someone else? That's the question we ask. We don't ask, what did you good to, what made you happy today? But we ask, what did you do for someone else today? And then we ask, what could you have done better?
I love it.
This is so amazing because it makes them, and I feel now we've been doing it for a couple of months, and you see now that every day they come up with something, they're working on it during the day, trying to do something good for someone because they know the question is going to be in the night. And sometimes they even come in and say, Jamie, I have something really cool to tell today. And then we're waiting for that.
I want to also say thank you for doing good for that 5-day-old child, right? And so I want to say thank you to you for taking that on. And that's your heart. And I see you and I value you and thankful to you for doing that, for somebody that you're giving opportunity to because of your love. So thank you.
That's the legacy, right? That's where I'm trying to leave. Make it, as you say, make it a little bit better. Yeah. Just for one person, try to make the world a bit better.
Yeah.
Meghan, this has been amazing. This talk, we went from composable commerce to back to internationalism to this and to being moms, to being authentic. And I really, really, really want to thank you. And if you ever are in Europe, send me a message because we should meet and go and dance on some rave dance trance music somewhere in Amsterdam.
I'm just getting a little older nowadays, but yes, I'm still into it. DJ Chiesto and others are still there and stuff. And, my claim to fame is that I have been asked to leave a dance floor because I was one of the last ones remaining.
Oh, so, nice. That's amazing. Anyway. That is amazing. We're going to, if you're here, we're going to try to catch a festival. That's a good one.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for your time. I appreciate this. So
thank you very much, Meghan. Thank you.